when I really was able to join aviation finance, I combined two of my passions, finance and the aviation space in July 2001. I looked at the registration numbers and, whether I finance these aircraft in my career or not, at the larger airports, I was looking for the airlines and, the aircraft. Don Evans, who was the founder of Azora, he saw the opportunity of underserved market, an undervalued market at that time. And he actually was the first investing into this technology. So we worked on the same market at the same time, me from the banking or financial advisor perspective. I dared to tell him about my plan and he supported it immediately and had me right away, early 2010, open Aviation in New York for the bank. It was the first satellite ever outside of our headquarters in Germany. So we started literally with 4 business jets to over 140 aircraft or aviation assets managed today, and a committed pipeline as well.
Hello and welcome to the brand new episode of my podcast, Flightpath with Alok, where I interview industry senior leaders, executives from aviation, finance, and leasing industry. Today, my guest is Claudia Ziemer. Claudia joined Azora in July 2021 and currently serves as the Senior Vice President of Finance. She has a diploma in banking economics from the Frankfurt School of Finance and Management. Welcome, Claudia.
Thank you, Alok. I feel very honored to be here in your podcast today. Thank you for having me.
So let's start right away with my favorite question, which is you as a person and your career journey.
Without, giving away that I have started my career in kindergarten. No, just joking. I started in aviation in 2001, so quite a while ago, and I've been through a couple of cycles. I started actually in banking, coming over from a commercial real estate department. When I started at the bank, I loved working in the American markets and negotiating in English and contracts and all of that, but I never developed a passion for buildings. So when I saw that the bank had an open position in the aviation department, which was highly regarded at bank back and Norddeutsche, then I immediately applied. And I was very nervous at that time to get the position. I remember that interview and was more than pleased to be welcomed into the aviation department back then of Norddeutsche in July 2001. But my love for aviation actually started much earlier in my life. When I was still living with my parents at home, my mother ordered an aerial picture of our house from the air. So she ordered a flight to be done to take this picture, and nobody in my family wanted to take a seat on that flight, so I took it, and I loved every single second of it. Really developed a passion for flying. Short story, I became really good friends with a pilot back then, who became later my partner at that period in time. And I really hung out at airports for years and washing windshields, planning routes. We were flying around in northern Germany every weekend, visiting even the little islands in northern Germany. So I had a deep, deep passion for aircraft. We took pictures of aircraft coming into the airport, etc. So when I really was able to join aviation finance, I combined two of my passions, finance and the aviation space in July 2001.
So are you one of those who, when you are still flying, you take pictures of airplanes on the airports?
Absolutely, absolutely. I looked at the registration numbers and, whether I finance these aircraft in my career or not, at the larger airports, I was looking for the airlines and, the aircraft. And it's funny that some of the transactions financing, you get these names, like bird names or whatnot. And I'm like, oh, they look at this aircraft. It was really funny. Yeah, no, I still do that.
I do that too. I just look at registrations and MSNs and I think, oh, have we done something on these airplanes? Have we worked on these airplanes? It's always fun to do. That's awesome. You just mentioned 2001, right? Which is just around the time the 9/11 happened.
Exactly. Exactly. Imagine, I mean, I just started 2 months in aviation finance and 9/11 happened and I was responsible for the US market. I remember I was sitting there, very brand new. I was working on an application, new loan for United Airlines. And all of a sudden, someone came screaming. An airplane went into a building and we all thought it was a small seat aircraft and was an accident. Little did we know that it was that serious. So these events really shook the industry. And, I found myself very busy between 2001 and 2005 with various restructurings, various workout situations. The bank remained actually open for new business. So I had the best of both worlds. But my learning curve was very steep during that time. You get very familiar with industry parties. Actually, to be honest, it was also, like an opportunity for me, of course, as well, to meet many people in the industry, get to know, like other banks and lending partners very closely and the airlines as well and their teams, right? So, took a real deep dive into the industry at that time. Yeah.
The reason I asked that, obviously, it was a watershed movement for the aviation industry overall. And I am one of them at that time, and I'm sure there are many like this who were personally affected by that situation. So we have been through a financial crisis, and you have been in the banking industry in 2008 as well, right?
Well, I was actually not working for the bank at that time, funny enough.
Mm-hmm.
After the industry recovered, and I'll let you ask your question in a second, but important to know, I got the opportunity in 2007 to start working outside of Germany, actually in New York, for a small financial boutique advisor. So I worked at that time in a small company environment, both with airlines and banks, and then the global financial crisis started. So it was really hardship again.
Yeah.
I didn't spare myself from anything, but it was a very valuable experience again, right? So
How was one different from the another? Because one was induced by an outside event, not finance related strictly, a terrorist attack, unfortunately. And the 2008 financial crisis was basically a financial crisis, a banking crisis, so to speak, in US markets, right? So I'm just wondering, from your point of view, given your background, how do you, if you have to put them both in separate buckets or do a little bit of a comparison, how the events were different and what went differently in both cases in your experience?
September 11 events, of course, were really shattering the world, right? There was war following, and it had a lot of political impact, obviously. And for the airlines specifically in the US, which I covered, that meant, not being able, that the whole market broke down, not being able to sustain their financial situation, with one Chapter 11 filing after another. United started in 2002 and then followed by US Air, by Northwest, Delta, American last. And there was a lot of consolidation at that time, right, in the market. United and Continental merged first. And, at the end of the day, it came out pretty healthy for the industry. And in the recovery, there was a lot of rationalized capacity. So in the global financial crisis, and this is where I worked at Sky Blue Capital, which was a financial advisor at that time. We sourced essentially debt for airlines, and we worked for airlines as well to introduce them to the banking market. For example, I worked very closely at that time with Azorra Airlines. which was a startup carrier at that time. They didn't even own one aircraft. And we went out with them in the market in the middle of the global financial crisis. So what's different is really that banks canceled lines, interbanking. So there was really no liquidity. And the banks that still would lend, they had huge costs attached to it. So it was extremely difficult to access funds. And the whole banking system pretty much shut down. So that is a very different event from September 11 events happening. So with September 11, there was a whole restructuring, consolidation in the industry. The global financial crisis, it was really to withstand the scarcity of liquidity in the market. We were actually able to source financing for all the airlines we've been working with at that time, which was great. There were little pockets of money somewhere in the aviation space. We had a lot of aviation-centric and focused banks in the market that continued to lend under certain circumstances, but we also saw banks canceling commitments and pulling out of the market entirely. So that went on for about 2 years. And then the market recovered again from the global financial crisis. It didn't have such a big impact on the airline industry as September 11 had.
That's very well explained, Claudia. And it just occurred to me that I started my first job in aviation 2001,
Yeah.
right, getting a job, and I was laid off 9/11. And 2008 is when I started working on my own as a consultant in aircraft leasing. So both are
Oh,
coinciding for some reason. I
okay.
never thought about it. When you were just talking, it occurred to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, all the dots connect. Yeah.
Actually, a funny story attached to it, which ties back to my today times at Azorra. So when we went out with Azure, and at that time, I don't know if you remember Paulo Cesar at Embraer. He was there, toured with us. David Neeleman supported. So I knew David Neeleman actually from that time, who was the founder of Azure. And we brought Azure into the market. We met various banks. At that time, I was already 8 years in aviation, so I knew a lot of people. And I always thought to myself, why is there no leasing company that is interested in the E190, E195, E1 asset? It was extremely hard. It was at that time still a niche aircraft. And there was a lack of leasing interest in this asset type. And at the same time, John Evans, who was the founder of Azora, was finding his way into this market space. He saw the opportunity of underserved market and undervalued market at that time. And he actually was the first, at that time, Jetscape was the first leasing company investing into this technology. So we worked on the same market at the same time, me from the banking or financial advisor perspective and him from within his company setting at Jetscape. So it was quite interesting that, so small is the world that I would then later start working for John at Azor.
I do want to come back to the Embraer point later. I believe Azor is still invested in Embraer airplanes as a lessor, right? That's very interesting because there are not many lessors out there for that airplane type compared to the other two asset types, right? So, and I have an angle there which I want to bring in later, maybe. Given your career journey, you have worked previously. You mentioned bank, and I believe that is as per your bio on your website, on the company website. It is Norddeutsche Landesbank. I hope I'm pronouncing it right.
Yeah, you can abbreviate it to NordLB. Many people say Nord. Yeah.
Yeah. So how has that been different from working in Azora?
Well, first of all, of course, a bank is a huge institution, right? It's very compartmentalized or very, very organized in the sense of you have a market division, various business lines, of course, credit risk, compliance, everything, treasury, everything is very well organized, and it's a huge institution with thousands of employees, right? So we when I started with Azora, it was a very entrepreneurial environment. I was employee number 13, so I was there from day one when we started the growth. A small company environment, so my experience with Sky Blue was actually very valuable for me. Not so much that I learned how to navigate the small company environment, but just having the courage to do this, to follow my heart and my passion, and to know I knew intuitively. So the full story is when I returned back to Norddeutsche after Sky Blue in 2010, I saw it working in New York. I saw how valuable it is to be in the market, to meet people on a more frequent basis, to participate in the smaller events that you usually wouldn't travel for, and to meet for lunches, to meet, people in the industry more often. So at that time, when I returned, there was a big belief within the bank to keep the department centralized and not have satellites worldwide, even though the bank had branches. But I saw how beneficial it is to be closer to the clients. So I made a business case, and I told the bank it would be great if we can open aviation finance in New York in their branch. And my proposal was rejected. So I don't take no for an answer. And funny enough, I had a chance encounter with a senior executive of the bank in the elevator after lunch. And he was a big proponent of taking businesses international and being in the space itself. So I dared to tell him about my plan, and he supported it immediately and had me right away, early 2010, open aviation in New York for the bank. It was the first satellite ever outside of our headquarters in Germany. And we were so successful in the following years that the bank took aviation to Singapore first and then to London. So it was really, I was spearheading this movement from being very central to being more close or being closer to the market, right? So how is that then different? I think I just got a little, I wouldn't say bored or so, but I went through so many cycles with the bank and so many internal politics. And then, in 2020, on top of everything, COVID hit. We had a really good run for years in New York, but and built a team. But then COVID hit, and yet again, we were in the middle of restructurings. And I just think I've seen it enough. So one day, Ellen Stanford, my direct report and CFO of Azora, called, and Ellen and I go way back to Jetscape times, and we met frequently and exchanged. And he pitched actually to the bank for that. And when Ellen mentioned to me that John Evans, who crossed my path before, when I had this thought, why is there no leasing company in the E1 space? When he mentioned that actually John founded Azora, and that he, on top of that, partnered with Oaktree as equity partner, which I also experienced before on the side of Jackson Square very successfully, I intuitively knew this would be a success story. So I called Ellen back next day right away and said, if he would need someone to help him finance all these aircraft that they will acquire, right? So a couple of months later, I found myself at Azora, and I just followed my heart, right? Like, how is it different? It's different in so many ways. We are a very flat organization. We are, open door policy. We work very closely in teams. We're very creative. We grew from scratch, really. When I started with Azora, we had 4 business jets. When John sold Jetscape to NAC, he had a non-compete, so he couldn't really do much in the commercial aviation space. And only with COVID, had this business opportunity again with smaller aircraft leading the market recovery, right? So we started literally with 4 business jets to over 140 aircraft or aviation assets managed today, and a committed pipeline as well. So that's very different from a banking environment. Banking is very, very formal, right? Very boxed in, very heavy when it comes to innovation, right? We are very creative and innovative, and that's really speaks volumes that we have amazing relationships with our OEMs as well, and support them with market need. So
If I may summarize in one line what you just said, in my experience also, the banking environment is more, unfortunately, sometimes bigger banks, they're more bureaucratic. There is a lot of red tape, so to speak, right? And yeah, in an organization where you're working now, things are more flexible or in the sense innovative. Its focus is on results. And though process is important, but results matter a lot.
Well, they matter here too, right? But it's much more fun.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I agree. Given what you have just explained, since you've given such a nice explanation about Azora's the work in Azora, how it is different from the bank, maybe explain to us a little bit more. What Azora is, what is their USP,
Sure.
fleet composition, general business. Give us a little flavor.
Yeah.
You know?
So Azorra is a full service leasing platform. We offer the full suite of touch points on the aircraft. Azorra initially took opportunity of market dislocation in the middle of COVID. John came to market with this business concept and the experience not only in smaller aircraft, but that served at that time well. John and the team had experience in narrow bodies and wide body aircraft previously at Jetscape and previously even at Indigo Aviation. And John came from IFC. So there's a lot of experience in different asset types, but in COVID, especially, international markets were shut down. I mean, Asia was heavily impacted, probably the most, right? And opened up markets, one of the last regions. But the smaller aircraft would lead the recovery. That's a strong thesis we believe in. So John built this business plan around this opportunity. We first bought second-hand aircraft, larger portfolios as well. One of the first portfolios we bought was a 37 E1 and a few turboprop aircraft portfolio out of a restructuring situation. And we started trading relationships with other leasing companies as well as doing sale and leasebacks. So the aircraft that we particularly focused on, especially in the beginning, we call non-commoditized, which is E190, E195, E1s, A220s, E2s. We have which is very unique, 2 order books with Airbus and Embraer on these 2 asset types. Later on, we saw more market opportunity in the even in the wide body space when in 2023, Voyager Aviation came to market. International markets were still closed widely and just started opening. So we saw this opportunity, coming into the market with the crossover aircraft. We call them crossover because they're kind of small narrow body aircraft, right? Not really regional aircraft. But we saw this opportunity with wide bodies because those international markets would soon recover. And the aircraft values stabilized already during the time of the acquisition. And those used wide body aircraft are right now in very strong demand. So we believe narrow bodies are very competitive market space where lowest cost of funds and liquidity, competes. That's not really us. We play more on the fringes of the narrow body market, where there's less competition. However, enough demand, right? It's a very important market. Way more than half of daily departures worldwide are smaller narrow body aircraft and regional aircraft. So a very important market worldwide that we are focusing on.
So you're saying that the airplane types, the E1, E2s, which you're focusing on, what you have just mentioned is an interesting term is crossover. You're saying they're crossover airplane types. They're at the fringes of the narrow body market. They're slightly smaller than a typical narrow body, but bigger than a regional jet, isn't it? If I understood correctly.
It's sub 150 seat market that we are focusing on above regionals. So regionals, we categorize 76 seaters. It's actually defined term in the US market by Scope Forces. So we less than 10% of our balance sheet are true regional aircraft. The remaining aircraft are mostly what we call crossover small narrow bodies, E1, E190, E195, E1, E2, and A220-300 aircraft.
Right. And may I ask, what is the total fleet size under management now?
It's above 140 assets, aviation assets. We have mostly aircraft, obviously, but some spare engines as well. Pratt & Whitney spare engines and GE spare engines in inventory, which help us serve our fleet. We have fleet management programs with both manufacturers in place, an FMP with Pratt & Whitney, and an agreement with GE as well on overhaul. So that helps us obviously to really effectively manage our fleet.
So the USP is very clear to me. It's definitely a slightly different model than a lot of other lessors. You have found kind of, if I may say, a niche in in the business.
Well,
Great.
again, it's an important market we serve. It's less competitive for sure. It's also very important worldwide, right? There's a lot of demand in our markets. And we also work very closely and creatively together with our OEMs for growth as well. Not sure if you're aware that we did a deal with Egypt there to take their A220 fleet out. That's one example and speaks really volumes to the creativity we offer to our airline clients. Egypt Air really the A220 fleet that they had, 12 aircraft, didn't work for their regional market. They operated the aircraft within Egypt, and the environment was not optimal for the engines. So Egypt Air approached Airbus and said, well, I would rather want to have more wide-body aircraft, wanted to place A350 order, but help us with the A220s. They don't really work for the operations we thought we want to support with the aircraft. So Airbus actually approached us, and we said, okay, we create this fleet solution. We take out the A220s. We saw a lot of demand for the A220s in the market. And we started placing those aircraft with airlines when Pratt & Whitney actually approached us and asked us to help them deliver further capacity to their existing airline clients to support in need of engine supply. And so we did that. So we worked very closely with Pratt & Whitney placing these aircraft. We started a new business relationship, for example, with Delta. On the aircraft, we serve other Airbus clients as well, and we have very, very good and solid relationship with Pratt & Whitney, working very closely with them. So it was a win-win situation on all fronts for the airline, for Airbus, placing new aircraft, for Pratt & Whitney, and for ourselves as well.
Pratt GTF, right? It's an obvious question to ask. I was literally asked this yesterday in an event, that is the engine situation now easing out? I have my opinion on that, obviously, but I would love to know from your point of view, is the engine situation what we were seeing few months back or a year back, and one of the affected, to certain extent, aircraft type are the ones in which you guys are invested in, right? You're invested in. So do you think the GTF supply chain issues or whatever performance issues, without necessarily going into their technicalities, from a business perspective, do you see that easing out in the coming months or this year?
Well, in the coming month will be difficult, right? We are still in the middle of supply chain issues worldwide, and the current environment worldwide doesn't help, right? With the supply chain issues, we see that on all sorts of ends. Transition periods are a little bit longer, but Pratt& Whitney is doing really a great job with managing the situation. Of course, I mean, it's a new engine. Every engine has teething problems. It's a little bit amplified right now, but by the current market environment, as I said. But ultimately, of course, Pratt& Whitney will manage it well out of the current supply demand imbalance. We are helping very actively with that. We are building a little bit of a spare engine portfolio as well. We just bought a few Pratt& Whitney spare engines. We are helping with the Egypt Air fleet, existing clients, to run their networks efficiently. We also do that on the E2 side, actually. So we are impacted on both, or asset types on the A220 and the E2 aircraft. And we also do have a few aircraft returning that we use for Pratt & Whitney, partially even, as a direct partner at their direction, apply those aircraft and place those aircraft to support Pratt & Whitney there to overcome the next. I don't want to put a time frame on it, but the next foreseeable future until the situation improves again. But I have no doubt that we will work through this. It's a great engine.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a new tech, and you're absolutely right. New tech will have its challenges. It's brave of Pratt and Whitney, in my opinion, to take a bet on such a new technology, so to speak. It was quite a radical approach with what they took few years back, and like where I am right now in India. When I fly around the airports, I see a lot of 320s, 320 news, which are the most impacted by various operators here, especially Indigo's A320 news. We see parked all around the airports, and we see slowly the numbers are reducing of parked airplanes, but they're still there, quite a few, and quite a few enough to be noticeable. So it's always there on top of our mind to ask that.
Yeah, it's also managing a little bit the existing fleets, right? So we are very disciplined in, of course, we and the manufacturers want to see new aircraft, airline clients for the asset types, which are new technology. But it's also equally important to really maintain reliability with the already existing clients. So we are catering to both, and we are making sure that both is being fulfilled, and we are helping very actively again with the situation to provide additional capacity to existing clients.
In India, like for example, there is one Embraer operator, Star Air. I'm sure Azora is aware of them. I'm just wondering, do you see opportunities for the airplane types to invest in this market, in this region specifically? I'm not aware if Azora has opportunities here, but I was just wondering.
A very impressive story, and very great regional support by the government now, building out the regional network, connecting smaller cities. With the outlook India has as an aviation market, and with the smart management of the government now, with ratifying Cape Town and supporting regional aviation space, I'm very hopeful that we can continue helping the market to grow, right, in the aviation space, especially with small aircraft.
Yeah, I agree. Star is a very efficient operation. I have had the opportunity to meet their CEO and management few times. They're actually in Bangalore. They're in our neighborhood where I am too, in Bangalore most of the time. So I've had the opportunity to meet their CEO and CFO a few times. Yeah, for business various opportunities. They're great. And please remember, if you're ever coming to meet them in Bangalore, I will be in Bangalore as well.
I will see you visit for sure. I might extend and do a vacation in India. I love India.
You're most welcome. You mentioned rightly that India has this very efficient regional connectivity scheme, which is helping with the connectivity in tier two, tier three cities. The beneficiaries are the likes of Star Air, obviously. You do know, since you are in the finance side, you do know that India is also trying its level best to generate an ecosystem of aircraft leasing and finance of its own. They have taken initiatives in the gift city. There is a IFSC set up. Have you heard about that, in the sense that have you been approached? Do you have any opinions?
I've heard about it, and I mean, the whole experience in Ireland and Dublin shows if the government supports and if there's a smart tax scheme or efficient regulatory environment spun around a business opportunity like this, it can be very successful, right? So, I mean, we are very happy with our relationship now with Star, and we've been more active in the region generally outside of India, but in APEC, we supported Scoot, as you know, with their venture into the E2. We have other relationships as well, for example, with Philippine Airlines on the wide body side. So we really like to be diverse. We like to be, worldwide active, of course. Generally, maybe to Azora, which is really a testament also to John. We have half workforce, woman, man. We have 24 nationalities with 58 people that we employ today. And we are very diverse. We have a presence in Singapore by a local Asian person as well. And so I wouldn't rule out we expand in that space. We haven't thought about further expanding right now. I mean, we've grown, I think it was in Airfinance Journal, for over 1,000% with the first 2 years. So I think, but it's hard to beat in the industry to the extent we've grown. So at the moment we are really, with further growth, with our pipeline, with the order books, I think we are good for this year. But it's a very interesting proposal, and wish you in India, of course, good luck with the whole setup as well.
What is Claudia's, yours, day-to-day role in Azora?
So today I run treasury. I'm responsible for our ratings as well. Raising all kinds of debt, from bank debt to capital market debt, which also gives us a responsibility for our corporate rating, which we run in my team, and investor relationships as it relates to debt investors as well. So it's a big area of responsibility. I have a fantastic team supporting me. And, we've raised altogether since I started $4.7 billion in debt. Yeah. And, we moved really from the beginning, as I said, we moved from bank, bilateral loans, warehouse financing, to a full transition of our balance sheet last year to recourse financing. With our banking partners, we set up a recourse RCF. Currently, we have 12 banks in the RCF. We are onboarding another Asian lender at the moment, because it's really important for us that we work with partners throughout the world as we are a global company as well, right? So it's very important for us to have partners in each of our regions we serve, also on the financing side, not only in our airline portfolio.
I have maybe more of an academic question to ask you, given your role and the impressive number you just mentioned there to me about debt raised, 4 billion plus 4.7 billion, I think, if I had it right. Yeah. 4.7. Yeah, I'm just going back and forth a little bit. So in India, gift city is being set up. The government is trying to get some kind of aircraft leasing industries going. Obviously, the challenge has been raising capital there, right? Yeah. I know the Indian banks participate in markets through New York and Singapore and all. I'm sure you're even better aware and much better connected on that. What advice would you give in your experience if a leasing platform is to come up in this region here, how do they go about raising debt and capital? What is it that they need to show to convince the lenders or the investors to come on board and invest in a platform if it is to come from this part of the world? It's a question which is on top of everyone's mind here. And believe me, when your answer will matter a lot, Claudia. Your experience really will shine a light on this. I'm hoping now.
Oh, um, well, I mean, in the leasing space, if you look at Ireland, right, you have almost every leasing company represented in Ireland. Some are, or most of the leasing companies, have U.S. Headquarters. Some of them have Asian headquarters. There's a lot of, Japanese-backed and Chinese-backed leasing companies also in Ireland. I think what Ireland did really well is that the tax scheme is set up in a way that the Irish presence for each of the leasing companies is a full service company in itself. All the different functionalities of a leasing company is represented in Ireland, and maybe that's a way to go to structure it to oppose some servicer reflective of the leasing company itself. What it would take, I mean, we are a PE-backed, very strong capital-backed U.S. company with U.S. capital behind ourselves. I mean, what it takes to source the funds in the local markets, you can probably answer better than me, but what I observe in Ireland really maybe is true for if you want to have full functionality, not only a marketing presence or not only a satellite for technical or something, but a full treasury, marketing, technical functionality and management. Replicating the business model that Ireland built for its businesses is maybe a pretty smart way to go about it.
One very important point you've touched upon is your strong backing by American capital, for example. And one of the challenges in the market, in Indian market and Gift City in setting up leasing platform, we have been hearing about. I was in an event few weeks back, and what everyone was talking about is that while there is an attempt to get leasing companies to set up offices here, I've spoken to a lot of lessors over the last couple of years on this, and the people want, which is rightly so in my opinion, the local capital to participate. The Indian capital is participating in a finance lease capacity, lending money on balance sheet basis to various airlines. I know they also participate through syndication with more advanced platforms. Maybe even on the debt you have or others have raised, there has been some syndication through Indian lenders too, directly or indirectly. I'm not aware of the details, but direct participation of Indian capital here is what is required. And what I've heard from you is kind of similar. There's a strong capital backing required for something like that to take off. Is what I've understood. And then it can help to attract, along with the platform capabilities, more capital.
Well, that plus, I mean, this space is really likes its structured transactions, right? If there's a tax angle, if there's a regulatory angle that makes it easier to lease aircraft, new technology in leasing space, some angle of attractiveness to make leasing more efficient. I think India is a significant enough market to over time build that know-how into and this attractiveness in the market. But that's probably almost more important from my point of view than the capital itself. I mean, if you look at Ireland, it's a similar situation, right? There are not many Irish banks that are in aviation, right?
Yeah.
And if banks are involved, there are probably branches of foreign banks that are very big in aviation. So I think it's a structural point. It's some form of attractiveness of ownership structures and reliability in the legal system as well, right? So there's a lot that can be done if those attractive factors can be developed, I think.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. that Ireland does not have much local capital as such participating, but they have created such a, yeah, of course, and they've created, yeah, I don't know, but they've created such a competitive environment for aircraft leasing and financing that even the financiers from all over the world are setting up bases there or raising capital or investing capital there. So it has to be one or the other or both possibly, right? And I know, I am the first to admit that India has a little bit way to go on both fronts. Ease of doing business, setting up the environment. It's a work in progress. It has improved a lot, but I also know as a first-hand experience, it still has to go further ahead. It will get there, I'm sure. But your perspective matters a lot. Thank you very much for adding that. And so let's move on to another very interesting area. You have just explained prior to this your role in the business, what you do. You do know, Claudia, that if I may say so, that you are a rarity in the business in aviation leasing industry. In that, in my experience, in working in the industry for for more than 2 decades, unfortunately, I've come across very few women executives
Yeah.
in aviation leasing and financing. And we mentioned Ireland, specifically in Ireland as well. Though I have seen over last few years, more and more women are participating in aviation leasing and financing, but still it is less. The percentage, I'm not aware of the exact percentage, but I'm guessing it is no more than 10-15% roughly is what I see right now. Uh, you have been a successful career woman in aviation leasing and finance. Uh, First of all,
Homework was a good contributor for sure. But yeah,
oh, no
very
doubt
happy.
about that.
Yeah, no, I'm very, very happy about all the, persistence that I put in myself, but also a good portion of luck as well, to be at the right time at the right place as well. So yeah, but I agree with you. It's been when I started at the bank, we had a fair amount of women in our team, but none in executive leadership positions. So there was it was a healthier mix than what you just described and what I still see today in pieces, but especially at banks as well. It's backtracking a little bit. And in many of my meetings, I'm the only woman in the room. And I sometimes even call it out and encourage and challenge people to, think about it, that there are not enough women in the industry. But it was for me really a combination. I think I'm a very driven person. I'm very stubborn and very relentless in pieces. But I also was able to marry my passion for aircraft that I experienced early on in my life with my profession, right? So I was always motivated because I love the space so much. What I can really say to motivate other women to become senior leaders in this space, no matter how male dominant or dominated it still is, it's a very friendly industry. It's a very family oriented with long-term industry. You meet people frequently over and over, and once aviation, always aviation. I say rarely do I see someone leave the industry space. Some people move from banking to leasing to airline to manufacturer or vice versa, but they rarely leave the industry, right, Alok? I don't know if you agree,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah,
the moment you reach out, you get help. The moment you ask, people are very friendly and give away and are very supportive. And it can be really tough for women in the beginning to claim their seat. But if you're persistent and you really focus on the content and on your passion, then, it's absolutely possible. Everyone has to put in a lot of work, right? So without a lot of work, it's hard to make a career in any event, but it is possible also as a woman in aviation. But it's still very rare. That's true. And women ask themselves different questions probably than men, like the whole term of imposter syndrome, for example. came from females in executive leadership positions, because it's so rare, like that you barely find other women as counterparties. Right? So
One thing which is very obvious to me working in the industry for many years is that there are not enough women executives in senior positions in the aviation, leasing, and finance industry. I don't want to opine on it. I may have my own opinions why it is so. But I can illustrate with a small story to you actually right now. So Acumen has been around for around 16 years. Around 10 years back, we were having a company-wide offsite in India. And my then Irish colleagues, one of my very senior Irish colleague who was my head of technical that time, came down from Ireland. And we went to a offsite, beautiful resort. All the colleagues were there. There was a bunch of girls and women in Acumen who were all standing on one side there and talking. I think we were planning some offsite activities. He comes to me and says, all these ladies who are they girlfriends and wives of the employees?
wow,
Like, no, I told him, no, they are all Acumen. They're your colleagues. They're your Acumen. And this is why we did the offsite. We wanted people to meet. We were spread out. I'm like, these are all our colleagues. He's like, what? We have that many women in Acumen. I said, yeah. And that was around 50% of our workforce that time. So 40,
yep,
50%, I think. He was shocked. And then I began to think about it. And that's when I realized he's right. We don't have, when I go to Ireland, at least that time, even now I see that, especially in Ireland, which is the hub of aircraft leasing, you can
yeah,
count on your fingertips. Only
yeah,
last few years, you have maybe one or two, I know hardly one or two women CEOs, senior executives, hardly anyone. You're one of the rarities whom I've known for a few years, fortunately.
yeah,
And if you recall, we spoke about this in Morocco when we had that wonderful dinner with
yeah.
Martin, and Sean.
I personally am very supportive of what you just said. I'm currently participating in the ISTAT Executive Leadership Program for Women in Aviation. You would ask why now? I think it's an amazing opportunity. We are about 20 individual ladies in senior positions in the aviation space that benefit from each other, building a network. And for me personally, it's really important to have access at the end of the day to become a mentor myself, to really throw myself in and support other women in the industry to exactly that, have a voice, share their experience, encourage people. And, there are all kinds of professionals in my group at ISTAT. We have senior technical leaders across leasing space, legal personnel, marketing, and finance people like me. So we are all sorts of, it's not only finance, it's even technical, right? So it is rare, but there are women, and, mobilizing voices and being available at the end of the day, get another education, being available to support other women is really something that is very dear to me.
I remember when we met in Phoenix a few weeks back.
Yeah.
I remember you were very excited about that program, and you mentioned to me, and I'll let you tell everyone about it. Your mentor, who's no less than a celebrity in the industry. So maybe go ahead,
That's
share with us. Yeah,
Yeah, that's true. It's I mean, I like John Evans, how he describes it. John was mentored by Steve for 8 years. So my mentor is Steve Udvazi, and I'm very honored to be supported by someone like him with that experience, skill set. And it's really a humbling experience. I'm really back on my bench to learn everything I can from a highly experienced individual and professional like him. And also to work together with PwC and with ISTAT on the program itself. So it offers a lot of opportunity, a lot of rethinking of process of, expanding your vision and living your vision, and being out and building further network as well. So yeah, but extremely honored to work with Steve on this program.
Moving on, Claudia, the question I have is there is a recent news article which came courtesy Bloomberg just 2 or 3 days back that China has possibly asked the various airlines in China to cancel Boeing order books. I know it's easier said than done, but there will be some impact, it's expected. And I know it, we know it, we all know it, why it is happening due to the so-called tariffs war right now going on. Though, at least between US and the rest of the world, it is pretty much right now on a hold, temporarily hold. But the US-China war is escalating so far. If I'm not wrong, I heard yesterday 245% tariffs. Just
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, without opining into the impacts of tariffs, etc., right now, but I'm just wondering from where you come from and this Bloomberg news about order books being cancelled. Do you see airplane supplies chain situation slightly easing out if that really happens? Or do you see any general impact?
Yeah, no, I cannot opine on Boeing, obviously, because we are not trading in Boeing order book. I can just say that for Airbus and Embraer at the moment, we see really high demand for our two asset types, and the demand supply imbalance is so huge that I don't see any impact at the moment. But obviously, the world is changing, and we have to see how it shakes out after all, and how parties agree on tariffs. I think everyone in the industry right now is analyzing the situation and what the impact may be. But again, for Airbus and for Embraer, where we are invested, I don't see any impact at the moment on our order books, at least. So. But again, that's something that yet has to be analyzed.
So we are at the very end of our podcast now, Claudia. And one of my favorite questions to always ask is your advice for new entrants in the industry. Our podcast actually goes out to many to many students, new entrants, people who are entering the industry newly, people who are at junior level, middle management or below, who look up to someone like you for their career journey. What advice would you have for people in general in the industry, aviation, leasing, and finance industry?
I mean, I can look at it from my perspective, from a finance perspective. What helped me extremely was my banking background, in general, because in all the years that I was at Norddeutsche, it's 20 years, minus my experience with Sky Blue, I built an incredible network of people. I gathered so much execution experience, right? Remember when I started, I was thrown into the post 9/11 market. So I contracted a lot. I executed a lot on restructurings, on new deals. And I really had to, whether I wanted or not, I wanted it, of course, but I had to throw myself into the market. So my advice really for anyone that is new, whether you started banking or you started a leasing company, airline or manufacturer, really try to get as much execution experience as you can. Attend meetings, attend conferences and events as much as you can. Build networks, reach out to people. People in the industry, this is a very great industry, very friendly industry, where people treat each other with a lot of integrity. And it is, I can only encourage to reach out to people, to professionals with questions, and ask questions as much as you can to get into the space. It takes a certain, trust needs to be earned in the industry, and it takes a lot of execution and a lot of presence and a lot of repetitive transacting with each other to build that trust. So put a lot of work in, have fun foremost, because I took things way too serious a long time. But have fun, enjoy this industry. It's an amazing industry, and I still love airplanes. So, you get the benefit of looking at beautiful assets as well.
Thank you for that, for very well articulated and great career advice. I'm sure people will benefit a lot listening to it. Before we wrap up, Claudia, is there anything else you would like to add from your perspective?
No, thank you, Alok. I'm really honored to be here. I think the one thing I may want to say is really encourage women in aviation not to be scared of the dominance in the of the male participants in the market. It's it's a very friendly industry overall. It's very interesting and innovative industry with a lot of potential on so many various different fronts. Just dig in and don't be afraid.
That was Claudia Ziemer, Senior Vice President of Finance from Azora. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I enjoyed interviewing her. Please don't forget to subscribe and listen to all the episodes in the playlist. Thank you.